What's going on, everybody? This is Island Hopper TV, and today we're going to talk about solo travel. Does it ever get lonely? People are always asking me this very question, and I'm actually making this video as a second round. So if you guys can hear me loud and clear, smash up the likes. I'm going to share a lot of information about my story of how in 2014 I first started traveling solo, and I still travel full time. Last year, I went to about 24, 25 countries and about 24, 25 countries this year. I'm currently in Southeast Asia. I'm not going to tell you my exact location, although if you saw my last video, you probably have an idea. Okay, Philippines. There you go. Anyways, thanks to everyone who smashes up the likes. If you guys can hear me loud and clear, let me know. But I wanted to say that, solo travel, people are always kind of like, oh man, I want your life. And that is great. I mean, I love travel. I think we can all manifest our own destiny, right? Whatever we really want, if we put our minds to it, we can achieve it. I know that when I first got into solo travel, I just wanted to travel. That was my big thing, right? Like I always just wanted to travel. Um, and just to give you a little bit of backstory about my travel history, being that I've been to 100 countries, and probably about 90% of those solo. I would say that when I was in the Navy for my 20s, we went to places like Hong Kong, Thailand, and all that. It was never lonely because we always had a big crew in our ship, a bunch of people to always, ask if you wanted to go out in town. But when I got into my 30s, I was out of the military, the whole brotherhood and all that was gone. I then still wanted to travel, so I had to figure out a way to still travel. I At first I was always calling someone. I'd be like, "Hey, you want to go with me? Hey, you want to go to California? You want to go to Seattle? You want to go to Alaska? You want to go to Hawaii?" I wasn't really thinking too much about going out of the country, other than maybe going to places like Mexico or Jamaica or something like that. I ended up ultimately getting to a point where I would go a lot further than that, pretty much obviously Africa and Southeast Asia and all over Europe, pretty much every country in Europe by this point. But most of it was done solo, and I want to talk about how it can get lonely and the things that I've done to help overcome loneliness. I will say that at first it wasn't easy. Some of the things that I personally struggled with, being someone who now is a full time solo traveler, the things I struggled with in the beginning was being seen alone. I think that was a big thing, but also feeling alone. I think whenever you're around people, especially friends or family, you always feel a little bit more confident. There's even a idea that, loneliness is actually bad for your health. So how do you travel and not feel alone? Well, one of the things I've said recently, and this was just something that came from my own mind, and I literally said it, someone else may have said it also or had the same intuition, but it was that I'll be home in my actual hometown and I'll feel lonely, even though my friends and family are all nearby, or the people that I consider my close friends, and they are my close friends, but I'd consider myself lonely even though I'm there. But then I would go to certain countries and I was never feeling lonely, even though I was alone. Do you get what I'm saying? So think about what I just said. I was alone, but I never felt lonely. Whereas I was in places where I was around friends and family, but I felt alone. So I think it's a state of the Western world or the state of the United States, or I don't know what it was, or maybe I was just in the wrong place and I needed to move. It could be a bunch of different reasons. Could be a spiritual reason. I mean, when you travel around, like you could be in a funk in one country and then you go to another country and you can totally snap out of it. You could be feeling sick or ill in one country and then you go to a new country and you feel like a new man again. It's really crazy. It's almost like going into portals and going in and out of portals. And I can't explain it. I don't have any real scientific evidence for why that would be, but like I could be feeling sick or groggy or depressed in one country, and then the next second I'm over here and I'm in a whole nother place. I would say sometimes the weather can have to do with it. Sometimes it could be the hotels or whatever, or just the environment. Uh, a city like Manila is a very interesting place. You would think, oh, Manila and Bangkok, which one's better? They're not even comparable. Manila is not even close to being on the same level of Bangkok. Or, you could say Jakarta or Manila. That's more of a comparison that you could make. But, both of those cities, they can actually suck you in and you can get kind of like really bored in those places. You go out of go out of Jakarta, you go out of Philippines, you can kind of feel alive again. And so sometimes going out into certain villages in the provinces or towns in the provinces, you can really wake up your spirit. So there's that. Okay, so what is it that I've picked up on with that? Well, I would say it's the people. So there's a couple countries out there that just have these real easygoing communities. Philippines is one of them. One of the things that I like about the Philippines, anywhere you go around the Philippines, you can pretty much go up to someone and tell a joke or anything, and they'll share a laugh with you. You can just literally start up a small chat conversation with pretty much anyone in the Philippines, anywhere you go. That helps a lot. Like if I was ever like if I step out of the room here and I just seen someone, I could say, "Hello, ma'am. How are you, sir?" This and that, and then just, "Hey, where have you been? How you doing? What are you up to? Have you been to the province lately?" And we could just go back and forth, and they'll have energy to have a conversation with you, and it's real friendly like that. Whereas in the U.S. or some of these other countries in Europe, you can't just talk to people randomly like that. It's just not the vibe. So that helps when you're in a place where people are very chatty and very friendly. And I've seen that in many different countries. Thailand's kind of like that as well. Indonesia's like that. You could say maybe Vietnam's kind of like that, but they don't speak as much English. Thank you to everyone who's smashing up the likes. I can see you. And Kareem, have you ever felt intimidated by any new cities in particular? And how did you overcome it? Oh, yeah. In the beginning, I used to feel really intimidated by places like Cairo. I remember feeling intimidated when I was in Cairo, Egypt at first. Although I'd say people in Cairo are pretty friendly. Where else did I feel kind of intimidated? That's a great question. Some cities feel very suffocating. Like you're in, they're so overwhelming. Like a mega city like Jakarta or Manila, even, it's really hard to get around just because of the traffic. And so you like step outside and you're like, there's not much going on around this community. And then you got people coming up to you. Like Manila is not the same as the rest of the Philippines. So if you come to the Philippines and you just go to Manila, you might not like Philippines. But once you get out in the province, you'll like it. But yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I could see how someone would get intimidated by a place like Manila or Jakarta. Bangkok's not too intimidating. But yeah, Cairo was kind of an intimidating place. I just went to Istanbul. I would say that wasn't very intimidating. Abu Dhabi was kind of intimidating at first, but I got over it. Whereas Dubai and Abu Dhabi can be intimidating at first, but then as you spend more time there, but it doesn't happen as much. I mean, I recently went to Manama, Bahrain alone. I went to Doha, Qatar alone. A lot of places alone. So, I mean, all the places this year have been alone. Um, but yeah, no, it doesn't happen as much. But this is why I'm making this videos, because I want to give you guys some of my mental preparations or things that I do. I would say Latin America, maybe in like Lima, Peru. I was a little bit intimidated at first, but as time went by, I got better. Panama City, a little bit. These are places recently. I went to Quito, Ecuador. But I mean, when first thing I do is right when I get to the hotel, I automatically look about the things to do, and I walk out of the hotel, and I'm already like, all right, who's going to give me a ride and who's going to show me around? First thing I'll look for is a hop on, hop off bus. If I'm really in a pinch, I'll just look for the hop on, hop off bus, because that's like a quick out of the box, like in the game kind of experience. You could just go on a regular tour, but hop on, hop off bus. The problem with those is obviously the traffic. They move slow, but if you wanted to see a city, you get an idea because they'll show you all the routes. I mean, I just went to Tbilisi, Georgia, and I was kind of confused about Tbilisi. I mean, it's a nice place, but I had no idea really where to go. There's not a lot of information on Tbilisi. So I was like, okay, I know what I need to do. I'm going to go talk to the hop on, hop off bus guys and at least get the route or the route to go. And I was automatically in there. Now that's a little bit expensive. I think it was like $25. Some of you guys might be on a bit of a budget, but I was just watching a video by this one new YouTuber guy. He makes $350 a month and he lives in Thailand full time solo. And he's just talking about he doesn't have any savings. I don't know how he's doing it. I mean, he's going on a prayer. He's going on a whim right there, because how are you going to survive on $350 a month from his YouTube channel? And I'm supporting him. I subscribed to his channel. I pushed the like button and I even commented because I was like, like, comment, and subscribe. And but I was like, man, dude, I know what it's like to be in those situations. Cause I mean, I remember back when Island Hopper used to make $3 a day. And before that, it wasn't even monetized. So that where was I going to get my money? I was just loving to travel. I was paying for everything on a credit card. But the solo travel thing, I would say, was really tough in the beginning. I remember my very first time going out solo. I was going through a little bit of a funk with work, and I needed to stop thinking about it because I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I checked Amtrak. I was like, there's an Amtrak station nearby here in San Diego. So I booked the Amtrak all the way to Seattle. And the first route was really nice. It was called the California Coaster right along the San Diego coast. I was like, this is great. I'll even pay for the business class, whatever. This is nice. I was reading the book, Think and Grow Rich, and I kept watching a bunch of Napoleon Hill videos. And I was all by myself. I was like, this is a really comfortable, nice environment. But then by the time I got to LA, the train changed. It wasn't as nice, but it was all right. And then I ended up getting up there to Mount Shasta, and then we passed through Portland, and then we arrived in Seattle. When I got to Seattle, I went around Seattle for the first time. I always wanted to see Seattle in the Pacific Northwest, and then I ended up booking a flight to Hawaii. Well, guess what? I chickened out on that flight. I missed the flight because I didn't feel comfortable getting on that flight going all the way to Hawaii because it was like a 4-hour flight. I was getting anxiety. I was getting stressed. This was in 2014. And I was like, man, I'm not going on that flight. Now, I mean, I've been on a lot of flights since then, but that I'm just showing you that I've had to deal with these kind of things, these challenges that popped up, and it's been tough. And so I ended up the next day, I was like, okay, I can do this. So I went back to the airport, got the ticket to Kona, and I was happy as can be when I landed in the evening time. It was a great experience. I got a rental car. I went all around the Big Island. I was like, dude, this is great. I love this. I actually ended up deciding to move to the Big Island. I started making YouTube videos from Hawaii, actually, about life in Hawaii. I lived there for about 3 years. I lived 2 years on the Big Island and about 1.5 years on Maui. And then I moved back to Arizona. Someone was just asking me, what happened to your Arizona channel? I haven't seen it recently. Oh, yeah, we just made a bunch of videos about Arizona. Go to the Arizona channel if you want to see all those new videos. Someone says, it doesn't make you lonely, but it screws up your spelling. Oh, really? Did I spell something wrong? Oh, geez. Did I spell something wrong? Does solo travel get lonely? The truth nobody talks about. What do you mean the spelling? I don't know what you're saying about that. Sorry. I thought maybe I made a spelling or grammatical error. Maybe I did, and I still didn't even catch it. Anyway, I got to stick to the subject here about solo travel getting lonely. So some of the things that happened to me also, I remember one time I was in Singapore after kind of going around Southeast Asia, and I remember just all of a sudden it hit me like being lonely. I got hit with a lonely spell, if you want to call it that, probably in around 2017. I was like missing my family. I was like, man, I've spent so many years like traveling. I feel like I'm all alone. Like my family, I haven't really seen them in a long time. And I remember just feeling like kind of in a funk about that. And I remember walking through the streets just being like, dude, this is what my life has come to. Even though I was in Singapore, I was traveling, I was just like really in a funk about it. So I would say like, yeah, people glorify solo travel, but I could see how like anyone who goes through solo travel at first is going to go through this. Nowadays, I don't deal with any of this. This is why I'm trying to make this video right now, because I've got information to share with you about how I've gotten to a point where I'm very content with being alone as a solo traveler going around. I think money definitely helps, but also mindset helps. So the idea of loneliness equaling being alone. So it's okay to spend time by yourself. You're not missing out. You're growing. So the personal growth that comes from it, this is like a moment of solitude. I remember just like really appreciating the moments where I would just go to a beautiful beach in Hawaii and go down there and think and journal and think about like what I wanted. And the reason I was doing this was because in that book, Think and Grow Rich, that I was reading, they were talking about like write down your goals. It was like all about manifestation. Like think about what it is you want from life and what it is you're willing to give. And so I was doing that, and I was like, well, I can't do that if I'm in a big city where there's lots of distractions and noise, but I can easily do that from a beautiful beach here on the Hamakua coast in the Big Island. So I did that quite a bit. And then that kind of evolved from journaling or like pondering and meditation, so to speak, to more of like listening to podcasts, listening to other YouTubers, getting more like self-help advice from other people. I remember coming across a Tony Robbins video when I was trying to find purpose. He said, what it is if you're ever in a rut, I believe it was Tony Robbins. I don't know where this idea came from, but it's true. Go back to when you were a kid. What was it that when you were a kid, you were interested in? And I was like, well, when I was a kid, I was interested in almanacs, atlases, and globes. Also, I used to look at the back of basketball cards and statistics. So I was like, okay, but how is any of that ever going to make me money? I'm like, yeah, looking at atlases, that's not going to make you money. But what I was pondered it a little bit more, and I was like, really, what I want to do is travel. I was like, I love travel. I'm pretty sure if you watch this travel channel, you're like, I love travel. So you're like, wow, how do you get paid to travel? I'm like, well, hello, that's like everybody's dream. Telling you today, here I am, I get paid to travel. So as crazy as that sounds to say, I mean, it's not something to take for light. But yeah, I've been doing that for over 5 years, getting paid to travel. The first 5 years, I was kind of out of pocket like that. Just I was getting paid to travel, but it was not coming from the same resource, I guess you could say. Um, but yeah, so I definitely have experience with being alone, traveling like that. But some of the things that I do uh, when I would say that like I kind of got sucked into a lonely vortex in Europe. Europe can really there's places in Europe sometimes you really rarely even talk to people in Europe. Europe is such a drainer. Even going through like North America is a drainer. I would say places that will wake up your soul or wake up your spirit. Um, I would say right now it's mostly in Asia. The places that will just drain you. I mean, even in Latin America, I've had some good experiences, but that one can suck you dry also. Um, so I don't want to give any wrong information and tell you like, yeah, if you go to Mexico, you're going to feel alive because there's been times in Mexico even when I was feeling a little bit drained. But I would say some of the best countries for solo travel where you're going to feel like you're interacting even in Dubai, I can feel like I'm interacting with people mostly because of the taxis and they're like Pakistan people. And Pakistan people, I don't know, they're just very friendly. Some of the friendliest people that I've seen around the world, typically, yeah, Pakistan, I would say Pakistani people are very friendly. For the most part, Indian people are very friendly, to me at least. Filipinos are always very friendly. I always get along with Filipinos. Um, I come across a lot of Brits abroad. Like when I'm in UK, I don't talk to many Brits, but when I'm outside of the UK, I talk to a lot of Brits and Aussies, as far as like whatever you want to call them, expats or immigrants. Just to clear it up, people are always having this conversation. Why don't expats call themselves immigrants? Well, simple, it's definition. Expats are people who leave their country and they go to a new place, but they don't pick up citizenship or residency. They just kind of stay for a set amount of period of time and then they go back to some other place. That's expatriate. And then an immigrant is someone who moves to, say, Australia, picks up residency, and then becomes a citizen. That's an immigrant. That's immigration. Like Italian immigrants, when they came from Italy, or Irish immigrants, when they came from Ireland, they came to the United States as immigrants because they actually live there. Okay. So the immigrants who moved to Australia or the immigrants who moved wherever, the expats are people who move to a place, but they don't immigrate there. Get it? Because there was some confusion about this where people don't understand the English language to the extent that they need to. So they're like, why don't expats call themselves immigrants? Well, they're not. um, Thank you to everyone who's smashing up the likes. Let's keep this video going. What time is it where you guys are at? Where's everyone tuning in from today? Um, One of the things that I try to do, and I guess this kind of came from my dad actually, when I was one time he said something about like getting out of the house and just talking to people. So let's evolve that to where we're at now as traveling. So it's like make it a point to like conversate with people, whether you say, hey, good morning, how's it going? Like sometimes just the vibe that you can catch off people will be good. I get it. Sometimes you're just not in the mood. Sometimes that coffee hits you a little sideways and you're like, don't talk to me. I just had a caffeine buzz or whatever. I don't know what could have you in a bit of a mood. But whenever you get out of that mood and you get into a little social, go up and talk to the bellboy or go talk to the person at the front desk or talk to someone at the restaurant. And then if you're in a place like Bangkok or Philippines or who knows where you're at, Dubai, go to the kind of find your local spots. I would say every city that I travel to, I have my like lifestyle routine. I mean, in Bangkok, I have a lifestyle routine. In Phuket, I have a lifestyle routine. In Manila, I have a lifestyle routine. If I'm in Panglao Bohol, I have a lifestyle routine. These are places that I kind of go back to. Like I've been to Manila maybe 10 times. I've been to Bangkok maybe 25 times. Who knows? I mean, I stay in Bangkok for like 10 days to 2 weeks at a time, and that's good enough for me. Sometimes who knows? Maybe I'll get to a point where I'll stay for 30 days because I'm starting to like my routines in these places. Singapore, I got a nice routine in Singapore. Um, I could get into each one of those routines, but the longer you stay in a place, the more you build a routine. Uh, some places, you'll get there and you won't like it for the first 2 days. Kuala Lumpur is a perfect example of that. Like my first 2 days in Kuala Lumpur, I was like, dude, I don't really like KL. Okay. But then KL, I started to like KL. I started to like Kuala Lumpur. I started to like Malaysia because I was used to things being done a certain way in Thailand. And by the time I got to Kuala Lumpur, I was like, this isn't for me. But as time went by, I even built a routine in Kuala Lumpur. So you got to give a place a little bit of time and you got to actually think about like, how am I gonna enjoy this place? Like, maybe you got to leave Thailand or maybe you got to leave Singapore or Philippines or uh, Vietnam or something because your visa. So you need to spend a little bit more time. So you need these like second home, third home, fourth home, fifth home. In this case, like 10th homes. Like when I go to Dubai, I've got a little routine. Dubai is a bit harder to get a routine just because it depends on whether or not it's summer or winter. Um, like in Europe, I'm trying to develop a routine and like I would say south of France, I was trying to build a little bit of a routine. I really like places where they have bikes. Anytime a place has bikes, going for a bike ride in the morning, putting down the phone because when you're riding a bike, you have to put down the phone. So you just you're getting the blood flowing, you're getting exercise in. So that's really good. And then by the time you get off that bike, you're not just sitting in front of a screen to where you're like droned out. First thing you're going to do is start talking to people. So that's important. Talking to people, making conversations, especially the earlier you do it, the better your day is going to be. But I will say, like looking at screens can really take away from you. So the longer you spend looking at the screen, the more detached you're going to be around from the world around you. The more you've got the earbuds in and all that, the more detached you are from the world around you, the more alone you're going to feel. So it's actually all about going out and trying to make a conversation, whatever you want to talk about. You could say, hey, I have like these little jokes that I do with people. Like I have this coin, it's called Pocky Pocky. It's a cryptocurrency that I started called Pocky Pocky, Paki Paki. I just had this idea one day to call a fish Pocky Pocky because, in Philippines, they got like ilo ilo, holo holo, like lapu lapu. And one day I just had this idea about Pocky Pocky. I was like, there had to be a word called Pocky Pocky. So I created a cryptocurrency. And so I asked people, I was like, hey, have you guys ever heard of Pocky Pocky? Or I'll say, like, do you guys take Pocky Pocky? And people always have the same response. They're like, what is Pocky Pocky? They always go like this, what is Pocky Pocky? And then I'm like, oh, you don't know Pocky Pocky. And so it's just, I'm just giving you an example of something fun I do with people. And it doesn't work so well in Europe because people over there are just way too freaking serious. But over here, it's a good way to share a laugh with people. Like I said, it's a cryptocurrency. So I'm able to talk to people about my cryptocurrency coin, Pocky Pocky. I was actually thinking about making it like a travel community coin, although I can actually just give it away. Like at this point, I mean, I've got the coins. I just like, hey, you want some crypto of the coin that we created? And I just give them away. I haven't done that yet, but I was thinking about doing that. I started the coin about a year ago, but that's something fun that I do. Like just because the word Pocky Pocky is so funny, I mean, literally, I would say in the places this Pocky Pocky like just takes off, like Sri Lanka, Thailand, Philippines. It's just a word, I guess, that just is so funny. Indonesia, Indonesians love it. I was using that word a lot in Bali, but I'd say between Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia, that word is a hit. It's like they're always like people will literally hear that word. They'll be like, I'll be like Pocky Pocky, or and they just start laughing. I'm just giving you an idea of how to share a moment with someone. I mean, it was a creative way that I came up with to like share some funny conversation because I was like, what am I going to talk about? How's the weather? Oh, it's beautiful weather. Like, come on, like people don't want to talk about that. So like saying a funny word and getting a laugh out of someone, it's funny. And then that's important, talking to people. Now you can also get into like groups or group travel and just meet people that way. I mean, that's like the basic rudimentary way to go about it. It's not the way that I typically go about it, but sometimes, I mean, I actually never really do this. I do like going on travel tour groups, especially when I'm with somebody. But if I'm alone, I don't really like doing tours too much. But that's a way you can do it. That is a low pressure way to meet people. because you don't have to talk to people on the tour, but you can talk to people on the tour. The earlier you get started with that, people will always be like, good morning. It's like, good morning. And then, like, as time goes by, someone will say something, or you like be out there, like around, I don't know, in Mexico, you're at the mezcal place and they're talking about how tequila is made. And someone will be like, hey, you want a shot? Next thing you know, you're doing a shot, sharing a laugh with the person and you're like, where are you from? He's like, I'm from the UK, or I'm from Germany, or I'm from blah, blah, blah. Who knows where someone's from? And conversations start happening, and then you're like, what, you guys eat at lunch? That's a way to make friends. But also have a purpose, like something that you're working on, whether it be like writing a book. I remember when I was writing a book, that was fun. Or right now I'm talking about making a travel app. This travel app would have multiple different features, but that's something that occupies my time, as well as doing these YouTube videos that you guys see. So you got to have something that like distracts you from any sort of monotony. If you're just traveling and you're not having any sort of hobbies or anything that you're working on, that can get you to feel pretty lonely. So again, routine, having something of a responsibility, really important. And then just having conversations with people around really makes things get going. Someone says, culturally sensitive areas for women, any advice? Okay, so Jane, I imagine you're talking about, what areas are you talking about? Because every culturally sensitive every area has a different cultural sensitivity. I'm just going to assume you're talking about maybe like places where they want you to cover up or something like that, like maybe like the Middle East. Let's just say Dubai or Abu Dhabi or Qatar. Yeah, Middle East. Okay. Yeah, because that's really the only place there's like some sort of cultural sensitivity. Advice would be, don't wear revealing clothes. That would be the best advice that I would give. I mean, outside of that, you should be fine. I mean, I remember going to like Dubai. I don't know, Russian women, they love to just wear like the least amount of clothes in Dubai, and I'm like, this is Dubai. Like, I know that in Russia and Moscow, you coming out of winter and you want to, but like basically we're talking about like basically like wearing a bikini walking around the streets of Dubai. Like the jeans so short, and I'm just like, dude, come on. Do they not have like cultural classes about like, how to dress in Dubai? I mean, but I was like, she walked around, nobody said anything. So I mean, that was in Dubai. It seemed like it was good to go. I seen people wearing bikinis in Dubai, Abu Dhabi even. So I mean, they're progressing a lot over there. So but I would say still, come on, just out of like respect for the, if you see people wearing burqas and stuff like that, maybe don't push it too much, wearing revealing clothes. Other things, just being aware of it. I think we all have, whenever we go to the Middle East, we have to be aware of it. That would be the thing. Someone said 8:50 a.m. where I am, been starting my travel journey. So I love channels like yours, Tokyo in 2023 with my friend, Bangkok in 2024, solo so far. Awesome. Yeah, that's how you do it. I mean, slowly but surely, one by one. And then the next thing you know, you're going back to Bangkok, you're going back to Tokyo, and then you're mixing in Taipei, and then you're mixing in Manila, and then you're mixing in, like every time I kind of come into a new country, I always like go into the capital, and then like depending on how I feel, I'll just go to the capital and then I'll leave. But I would say it definitely gets more enriching outside of the capital. So like if you go to Thailand, you go to Bangkok, you're like, I went to Thailand. No, you didn't go to Thailand. You went to Bangkok, which is a capital city in Thailand, but there's a lot more to Thailand, whether it be just, I mean, I've gone all around Thailand. I've gone to Isan, I've gone all the way down the Malaysian Peninsula several times, which includes like going through Hua Hin down to Chumphon, uh, through that whole area, then into Khao Sok, Khao Lak, all the way down Krabi, then going even further down. And that was just like a little journey that's not really talked about, but it's like transiting the Malaysian Peninsula. The Malaysian Peninsula is that little like leg that kind of comes down, and at the top is like, Thailand, and then it goes all the way down to Singapore. That's one. And then another kind of challenge that I put myself into was going across Java. I was like, Java's a big island. How do I go across Java? And then Philippines. It was like the first couple times I went to Philippines, I went to like Boracay, Bohol, and then that was it. But then I was like, okay, after I go to Surigao, and then I went to like Palawan, El Nido, and all that, then I was like, okay, well, okay, now I'm here in Boracay, instead of flying out of Boracay, I'm going to actually take a private car or get a transport and go all the way to the bottom because I see there's a town down here called Iloilo. And if I go to Iloilo, it looks like I can take a ferry to Bacolod, which is on Negros Island. And then when I got to Negros, I was like, okay, I'm in Negros. And I was like, well, do I fly out of Negros or Bacolod, or do I go across the island? And I was like, well, do I go down to Dumaguete, or what do I do from here? I ended up going across the beautiful mountains of Negros. Like, I was like, dude, this is awesome up here. It's like you're in Philippines, but it's high up in the mountains. You get to the other side, and then you cross and you go into like San Carlos into Cebu, and then you're like, okay, how do I get from San Carlos to Cebu City? And then you're in Cebu City, because at times I'm like, I want to avoid airports. So how do I avoid airports without stressing myself out too much? Because traveling in the Philippines can be like that. But I mean, I went all the way uh, from Negros to Cebu to Panglao Bohol, up Bohol to this like no man's land up in the northern part of Bohol, crossed that straits there to Leyte. I ended up in Leyte, another place that was kind of like no man's land. I'm talking about places where there was no foreigners. I'm like the only foreigner on the whole boat. Um, and I ended up going to this place called Ormoc, and then I went to Camotes. I mean, this is just because and the whole reason it happened was because I was like, I don't want to go to an airport for a while because airports were driving me crazy. I was just like, I got to stay away from airports. They're just like, I go to airports too much. And so it kind of came about because of that. And then I actually enjoyed it. So it was like, sometimes if you're feeling a certain way, maybe it's like the universe pushing you in a certain direction, saying like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to show you around Philippines. Because you don't like airports, you get to see a bunch of the Philippines now. And that was kind of cool. Same thing kind of happened with Indonesia, because I was like, oh, I don't want to go back into that busy Jakarta airport. So I was like, how do I get to Bali from Jakarta? So I was kind of looking about like how to get across Java. That's how I ended up going to places like Yogyakarta, or I ended up in Surabaya or Samarang. I was trying to get to Bali, but by the time I got to Surabaya, I was like, oh, it's going to be hard to get to Bali. So I was like, well, I'll just take the plane from here because it looks like it's like a low cost kind of airport. So I just flew to Bali from there. But I pretty much went across Java just through that same concept. But it's just island hopping. That's where the whole channel name comes from. Island hopping. That's what I did in the Philippines. I mean, going from like right now, I'm looking at the map and I'm like, dude, I could go down to Mindoro. From Mindoro, I could island hop over to Coron. From Coron, I could go down to Palawan. By the time I get down to Palawan, I could get down to Puerto Princesa and then, see where it goes. But go all the way down. I mean, I've even looked at going across, because if you go all the way down to southern Palawan, you're like, okay, I think I can see Borneo from here in Malaysia, but it's a little bit dangerous down there right now. Kind of same thing that happened with Mindanao, because I want to go down to Mindanao, but it's like, dude, Mindanao is so close. If you go down to the Sulu, I mean, there's so many beautiful beaches and islands down there, but they're off guard, or they're off. You're not supposed to go down there. It's U.S. Travel Advisory Level 4. I'm not going to get into why or anything, but if you know, you know. But yeah, I was trying to get down there. Someone said, question: are there any traditional tourist destinations that you wouldn't travel solo? For example, places like Colombia or Egypt don't have the best reputations, or like Guatemala or Lebanon? Good question. All of those would be ones that I would heavily consider. Uh, so, would I go to Colombia again alone? Uh, yeah, why not? I mean, the area around Medellin is nice. I mean, I think it's called Poblado. Poblado has like, it's got nice hotels. It seems fine to walk around Poblado. It's a nice place. I mean, it's like it's high elevation. It's nice as far as Bogota goes. Yeah, I'd probably go there alone. Um, I mean, I just went to Ecuador. I went to Panama City, Peru. I went through all that. I've been to almost every country in South America except for like I don't even know what they're called. Like, well, Venezuela, that whole northeastern part of the continent. Oh, and I never went to Paraguay, and Paraguay is a place I need to go. Paraguay is actually really a good place. Someone says, by the way, I'm loving these questions, but would I go back to Lebanon? If you've seen our video from Lebanon, yeah, I would say I'd go back to Lebanon. There was no real reason. Like, Lebanon is not necessarily unsafe. It's just the situation there is no good. The currency, you get this wad of cash, and it's basically like not valuable at all. They don't even have like currency exchange there. I mean, the currency is basically like toilet paper there. What I'm saying is like it has very little value. It could have like hundreds of millions of. It's like in Indonesia, you know, like when you buy things in Indonesia, you're paying 1.5 million rupiah, which is about, I don't know, like what, 25, $30. By the way, here in Philippines, they have been having earthquakes. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but right now I felt like the building just kind of shook a little bit. That was weird. A lot of people are like kind of waiting for a big one. Like a lot of my Filipino friends keep sending me this. They're like, "Oh, the Manila fault line is supposed to rupture," and I'm like, "Oh boy." But yesterday I was sitting here at this desk making a video, and all of a sudden the whole building went like this, and then it just stopped. And I looked, I was like, I went on Twitter or X, and I was like, did I just feel a earthquake? And sure enough, there was one about 50 miles away. It was like a 5.6 earthquake. So they've been getting a lot of earthquakes, which has kind of made it like to where that's why one of the reasons why I'm staying in Manila and I'm like really close to the airport, because I'm like, all right, is this fault line like really active right now? Because in Philippines, they get a lot of calamity. They get typhoons, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes. Like there's an active volcano that erupted like 2 weeks ago over there, tall volcano. So I don't know what I'm going to do in Philippines. I want to explore more, but it's been kind of crummy weather. Yeah, I'm not too high up, but I'm a little bit high actually. Someone said, when traveling, do you prefer hotels that are dirt cheap hostel, middle range, or high end? Obviously, cost is a factor. But you can see right now I'm staying in a pretty nice room, right? Let's see here. I like, if you guys read that book that I wrote, Diary of a Three-Star Gypsy, and basically I'm calling myself a three-star gypsy because I'm someone who likes to travel. Gypsy means I travel, I roam around, been to 100 countries, and like I just kind of go around by myself. I could have used of a three-star nomad, but I used the word gypsy just because that's kind of what my grandpa called himself, or my grandma called my grandpa a gypsy soul. So I kind of take after that. That's why I wrote that book, The Diary of a Three-Star Gypsy. But 3-star indicates that I like middle range. Like, yeah, I'm staying in a nice hotel now, and I've stayed at JW Marriott's, Conrad's, Grand Hyatt's. I've stayed at the Conrad here in Manila. I've stayed at the Grand Hyatt. Stayed at a lot of those places, but if I'm to be honest with you, like in the Philippines, I love a good 3-star hotel nearby the beach, just chilled, maybe like 40, 25 to 40 different rooms in the whole hotel, not too busy, maybe at 50% occupancy. That means maybe 20% of the rooms are full. You can get the pool to yourself in the morning. You can get a nice, relaxing breakfast. Whereas at one of these kind of hotels, you wake up like right when you go into the uh the breakfast hall, it's like people everywhere. Thanks to everyone who's crushing up the likes. We got 20 likes. I appreciate that. So I would say that, yeah, I like 3-star hotels. That's kind of like the sweet spot. You know, you get a good price, at least in Southeast Asia, a good 3-star in Koh Samui, a good 3-star, and anywhere in the Philippines. Geez, I mean, I don't really have any problems with 3 stars. 2 stars, great prices, but the thing that holds me back with 2 stars is there's always like, did they clean the sheets? Is the towel clean? So it's like, maybe I'll pay a little bit more and hopefully they took better care like that. But sometimes you'll stay at like a 2-star and they're better than a 3-star or 4-star. So the rating system could be a bit flawed. So sometimes, like if I'm in a place, like I just land in Panglao, Bohol, I'll go around and I'll like scout out the area and I'll be like, okay, if I want to stay here for 7 days, I'm staying at this hotel. I'll either decide if I want to stay here longer. So I only book one night and then I'll kind of look around. I'll be like, that's a better area. Let's see if there's any hotels that are available. I'll go talk to the front desk. Can I see a room? If I see that, oh, this is perfect. This is going to work great. They got a pool, they got a room, they got a breakfast hall, they got a nice front desk, good price, nearby, great location. I can easily base camp out of this spot. How's the internet? Oh, you guys got Starlink. Nice. Well, I'm staying here, because like out here in the Philippines, they got either real slow internet or Starlink. And so it's like big disparity. Like the fastest internet I ever seen was on an island, Malapascua, out in the middle of the Leyte Gulf, out in the middle of Leyte, out there by Leyte. I know where that earthquake happened. That was a year ago. But it was like a dive resort on Malapascua Island. And I had to make a couple videos. I was like, well, let's see how slow the internet is. Probably like 1 megabyte per second, 2 megabytes per second. So I did a speed check and it said 250 megabytes per second. I was like, what? I was like, this is lightning fast internet out here on this island. They were like, yeah, we use Starlink. Kind of cool, right? Game changer. Someone said, question, is solo travel an effective way to develop self-reliance? Oh, absolutely. In terms of developing better judgment, developing the habit of thinking through potential impacts of doing this or that. Yeah, I mean, self-awareness, confidence, um, you're always making your own decisions. So of course your brain is always like getting practice with like decision making. So between confidence and decision making, yeah, those are skills that definitely come about. Now, I'm not going to say that having friends or having people around you isn't a great thing, because being around the right crowd, you know, that's uplifting. It can uplift your soul. Like you could go from solo traveling to having your best friend come out and meet you somewhere, and then all of a sudden, like you're like you definitely feel like you just got an energy uh, injection of like happiness and power and euphoria. I've had that happen when my friends come out and visit me, or my family. I mean, it's like, so yeah, like those kind of things can be uplifting for sure. But the amount of like self-development that comes from solo travel is, yeah, it's undeniable. I mean, you're 100% the captain of your own ship. You're on your own when you're in a foreign country. I mean, when I'm down there in Leyte Gulf, or if I'm down there in like, Southern Palawan or Mindanao, I'm just using Philippines as an example because that's where I'm at. But if I'm in Krabi or Khao or Khao Lak all alone, dude, it's me. I'm not saying me versus the world, but it's like you got to make your own decisions because you're in a foreign country. It's not dangerous. I mean, it's not like scary. I mean, when I was in Sri Lanka, going around Sri Lanka, sometimes you're like, well, me and this driver are going to be spending all day. He's going to show me all around Sri Lanka today. It's just going to be me and him, whether it's daytime, nighttime, in the middle of the jungle, wherever we're at, or sometimes I'll get onto a boat and I'll be like, man, we're out here in the middle of the Andaman Sea, and it's just me and the boat driver right now. It's like, I didn't tell anyone I was out here. So, wow, what am I doing out here? Or me and some guy in the Philippines, whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, you do kind of, I don't know how, sometimes I'm like, I don't even know if that's a safe idea actually, but I'm not necessarily recommending it, but I've been doing it for a long time, and done it many times. I think, you have to like, really feel confident with the driver, or the person who's going to be taking you for a ride. I will say that. I mean, one of the good things is about Grab or Uber. I mean, when I was in Romania, I was trying to get or I went from Romania to Bulgaria crossing the border, and I was like, wow, this could be a little bit interesting. I got to get I got to get the taxi going to the border with Romania, and then I got to cross the border, and then when I got over there, I got to find a Bulgarian to take me across to get me to Turkey so I can get to Istanbul. So I was kind of like, oh man, that's a lot of decision making right there, and it's kind of like of course every single country has the same thing. It's like I said this on my Twitter or my X. I said the two things I noticed everywhere in the world that I've been. Every place has pigeons or doves. Those birds are everywhere. I don't know how that. I don't know how not like other things are not very common everywhere. Like it doesn't matter where in the world I go, I always see pigeons or doves. And then taxi scams. I mean, even here in Manila, I got scammed at, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but yeah, they scam me at 3 in the morning because they can. And it's not like a bad scam, it's like a petty little thing, but it's annoying. It's whatever. Even in the US, I'll come across like, guys at Fort Lauderdale Airport. They're always the yellow taxi. So I always like to get into Ubers or Grabs or whatever the rideshare app is at the time, Bolt. Those things kind of like cut out the riffraff if you can use those. They cut out the decision making process of like having to vet someone and be like, this guy is going to be the one taking me the next 40 minutes or whatever. Someone said 250 MB, that's better than most American hotels. Yeah, because it's Starlink. Have you guys ever used Starlink? Starlink is incredibly fast. All I can say, look, I might have thrown that 250 MB out. I just remember it might have even been 300, or it could have been 150. I just know it was lightning quick. Like to upload a video that was four gigabytes took like 10 minutes, or like 7 gigabytes took like 10 minutes. I was like, oh, this is great. And I'm out here in the middle of the ocean on Malapaska Island. And they had a typhoon. This is typhoon season in the Philippines. They get like they've already had like 2 typhoons since I've been here. Man. Someone said, "Jeff, it's been raining here in Mesa for literally 4 days." Oh, dang. Dang, that's a lot of rain for Phoenix Metro. Someone said, "Question, is Guatemala safe for solo travelers? I've heard it has pollution problem. Is that true?" I didn't find Guatemala to be unsafe necessarily. So I walked around Guatemala City. They have like different districts, or I think it's called like District 8, District 7, like wherever you're getting a hotel, like go on Chat GPT and say, like, what are the safest parts of Guatemala City? Or like, what is the safest way to get from Guatemala City to Lake Atitlán? What's the safest way to get to Tikal? I mean, Guatemala looks small on a map, but getting around Guatemala takes a long time. And the roads are very windy. There's not too many places in the world where I went where I got motion sickness by sitting in a taxi or, in this case, a van. Guatemala, the road from Guatemala or from Antigua to Lake Atitlán made me like motion sick. And it's crazy because, you know, you travel enough, you could go a long time without ever getting seasickness. I was in the Navy for a long time. I never got seasickness the whole time I was in the Navy. But one time I was out in Australia, we went out at 7 in the morning fishing for mahi mahi, I guess you could say dorado, dolphin fish, whatever they say like a fish that's got a lot of names. Anyway, so I went out there with my friend. He's an old man and his buddy. And it was early in the morning. Like we took a camper down to like Byron Bay in Australia down in I remember he was telling me, he's like, yeah, that's Mount Warning right there. And I'm like, why do they call it Mount Warning? And they're like, well, when Captain Cook was coming down here, they knew that by the time they got to Mount Warning, that the seas were going to be high and that the Great Barrier Reef was around here. And I was like, oh, okay. So like I was already like kind of a little bit funked out. But the guy, he said to me, he goes, oh, so you were in the Navy. You never got seasick before? And I was like, no. He kind of like plants a seed in my head. Next thing I know, I'm like out on the boat, just like holding on to the back of the boat, just like, dude, I'm seasick. I was like, this is bad. I've never been seasick. Like it was to the point where I almost felt like I wanted to jump off the boat and swim back to shore. I was like, you can't do that in Australia, man. They got great white sharks out there. So I was just like, dude, and I was like, well, even if I jumped off the boat and tried to swim to the shore, there's no telling like how that would work out. Like, so that was a bad idea, but I was actually seasick. So I'm just telling those stories because, you can be one of those people who's cocky. You're like, oh, I never get sick or I never get scammed or anything like that. But I'm like, the more you travel, dude, you'd be surprised. It can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter how OG you are. It doesn't matter how many countries you've been to. Those kind of things come up, whether it's motion sickness, uh, seasickness, scams, pickpocket. I mean, all these people are like, oh, I've never been pickpocketed. Wouldn't happen to me. I'm the type of guy that, man, if they come up to me, I'll punch them right in the jaw. Next thing you know, he gets pickpocketed. you know, I'm just saying, like, always remain humble. I would say it's a big thing. Someone said, yeah, I thought I was unscammable until I dealt with tuk-tuks in Bangkok. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's like I said, I mean, I've been to I don't know how many times. You guys have probably seen my other channel, VertCam Travel. I show arrivals into airports. People always come on my channel and they're like, "You're so dumb. You got scammed." I'm like, dude, I've probably been to like, I don't know, hundreds of airports. I mean, I've been to 100 countries. Not every one of them I went, but like Bangkok, you could probably see like at least 5 Manila arrivals on the channel. You could probably see at least like 5 or 10 Bangkok arrivals or Kuala Lumpur or whatever airport I've been to many times over. Dude, it's like, it is what it is, man. You get there, sometimes you don't even want to, sometimes you'll just accept the scam because you don't want to deal with like, you're coming off a flight. Like that flight from Bangkok to Manila, it was like a midnight flight. It was a little bit delayed. You get to the airport at 10, you take off at 12, you've got a little bit of a delay. It's 1 o'clock by the time you take off. You arrive at like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. You get off, you go through immigration lines. By the time you get there, they're like, oh, 1,200 pesos. That's like $20. You're like, dude, I don't care if it's $20 or $5. I don't care if the going rate is $5 or $20. It's worth it to me to save my sanity than trying to search around the airport at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to find a way to save $15. Like, it's like, I mean, I've paid $5, $10 a day just to have faster internet, like, dude, so sometimes, you just accept the price gouging. That's what I call it, but people will call it like it's like the same thing with the tuk-tuk in Bangkok. You could be looking around. It could be like middle of the daytime, 3 or 4 o'clock in Bangkok, right? Hot as heck. Bangkok can get hot, especially outside of rainy season. They're coming out of rainy season. Rainy season, Bangkok stays pretty neutral, but the second the rainy season goes away and the sunshine comes, 3 o'clock in the afternoon in Bangkok, that sun is hot. We're talking Bangkok hot. Like I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. You can play around with me and say like, "Oh, you're not used to Bangkok hot. You think that's hot?" Oh, I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm like, I am from Phoenix. I've been to Dubai. Like Bangkok at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in like, I don't know, April. Oh my gosh. That is like intolerable. Like if you're outside for any longer than 2 hours walking around Bangkok from like 2 to 3 in the afternoon, it's too hot. So if a tuk-tuk's right there and he tells me he's going to charge me 350 baht to go down a road and I can't find a taxi anywhere and Grab's not picking up the ride, I'll just get scammed straight up by the tuk-tuk driver and be like, just take me, get me out of here by this, like that. So I mean, it's one of those things. You got to play your cards right. You got to take your losses and take your wins as they come. I mean, if you're going to sweat about 350 baht in my case, like right, like sometimes it's just about principality. You're like, oh man, this guy's obviously ripped me off. So it can like really annoy you. Like sometimes it could be just a matter of difference of like $3 to $5. And in your mind, you're like, dang, they're ripping me off. Like Vietnam, that's a perfect example. Like some guy tried to charge me like 500,000 dong to go from like Hanoi to like the hotel that I was at. And it was 500,000 dong, which I think comes out to, I don't know, like maybe $12, $15, but it's way more than what I paid to go down there. I think I only pay like 120,000 dong to get down there. So that's the currency, Vietnamese dong. And I was just like, dude, that's 4 times the price in my mind. I'm like, I'm like, there's a rip. But really, if you zoom out and you're like, why are you sweating? Why am I sweating $5 or $6? Because in my mind, I'm like, that's the principle of it. It's like the fact that they are doing that to me. So those are the kind of things you got, like I said, I mean, you gotta roll with it. You got to roll with the punches. Someone said the road from Pai to Chiang Mai had so many turns, I was getting a little motion sickness. Dude, that is true. I mean, I haven't been to Pai. They call it I know what you're talking about. They call it the pie hole, right? Like you get into Pai and you're like in the pie hole, which is like the backpacker place. I went to Chiang Mai, but instead when I went to Chiang Mai, I went up to Chiang Rai. But Pai is a place I'd like to go, but I can only imagine because even the road from like Chiang Mai to, even the road going around Chiang Mai, going up to the temples, going up the mountains. So I know what you're talking about. I could see how Bangkok could get you. I mean, most of the time in Bangkok, I'm sorry, in Thailand, I don't really get too far off the path. Like even when I went up to Isan, this is a route. If you want another route going the opposite side of the country, I went from Bangkok to Ubon Ratchathani, which is Korat. And then from Korat, you go to, Khon Kaen, and then from Khon Kaen I went to Udon Thani, and then from Udon Thani I went to Nong Khai, and then crossed at the Nong Khai to Lao border crossing, went to Vientiane, which is actually really close to Thailand. Like the capital of Lao is really close to the Thailand border. It's right there on the Mekong River, and then you go up a little bit, and then into the country a little bit. You go into like Luang Prabang or Bon Vang in Laos. I mean, it's a whole different experience. I've only been to Cambodia once, but I was wanting this year. I was actually planning to like do my border run because to Cambodia, and so like, but there was a war this year, so I was like, well, that whole border seems like a little bit contentious, so I probably will skip on that right now. But the other direction, so I always end up just going back down to Malaysia, down to Singapore is like the route that I keep taking just because of like all these other things. But when I went to Laos, the reason I don't keep going back to Laos is because they take up a full page in my passport with the visa. So I was like, oh, if I go again, are they going to take up another full page with the visa? And it could be because I did the visa on arrival. The only 2 places I've ever seen do that were Vietnam and Laos. They take up a full page. They like put this big stamp on there. And I was like, if I let every country do that, I would be needing to get a new passport like way too often. I've been to 24 countries this year. So I love countries that don't put stamps in the passport. That's why I'm looking forward to going to Australia. They're not putting stamps in passports. Thailand went away from like outbound departure stamps. So I'm happy about that. The people who are not happy about that are the people who collect passport stamps. They're like, Dude, like when I went to the Caribbean, for example, I went all around Anguilla, St. Martin, and St. Bart's. It's like three island countries that you can get in a small proximity by ferry. But I was going in and out, like, you get one when you arrive into St. Martin, you get one when you depart St. Martin, you get one when you arrive in Anguilla, you get one when you depart Anguilla, then you get one again when you go back to St. Martin, then you get one when you depart St. Martin, you get one when you arrive in St. Bart's, you get one when you depart St. Bart's, and then you get one when you arrive back into St. Martin, which is what I did. So I was like, "Oh, dude, I can't be doing that." I was like, "Man, y'all really need to be stamping the passport that much? Like, you guys are small little island nations, like." So Singapore is one of my favorite places because you can easily get into Singapore. Like when you arrive into Singapore, you're not going to have a line. There's no line. It's all e-gates. They don't put a stamp in there. Same with Hong Kong. It's like real smooth, seamless arrival and departures, like limited lines. I like airports where you're not standing in queues. That's the problem with Manila. Is like, this airport, Ninoy Aquino, is known as one of the worst airports in the world because of long lines. Also, lack of aircon. But it depends on what terminal. So I have to be selective. Like, I think I got to go for the new terminal. Sometimes I'll even pay for the fast track, like just get the business class, pay the extra $100 for the business class flight, just to avoid like standing in some long line for an hour and 15 minutes. But they don't really have fast track at Ninoy Aquino. So my hack for that is like arrive into Ninoy Aquino and then go up to Clark up in Angeles, where the airport is like huge, modern, brand new, great aircon, all that. But they only have limited flights. So it was supposed to take the pressure off of Manila, which is it's about a 2-hour taxi ride. The hack in Philippines, if you need to go long distance, you just leave uh, at night in the middle of the night. So you go in the middle of the night, and then the traffic's not so bad. Because if you've ever been to Manila, like from basically 6 in the morning until 10 at night, Manila is just jam packed traffic jam. It's like Jakarta. Someone said, question, what are your top 2 or 3 benefits of solo travel from your experience? Well, I would say confidence and decision making are 2 brain exercises that benefited me. Saving money was something in a lot of cases I felt like, I was saving money and hassle, stress. Sometimes when you travel with people, it can just be stressful. I mean, if you ever wanted to know, they say if you ever wanted to like know if you should marry someone, travel with them first. um, because that will push you in ways that regular life won't. So travel can be quite stressful for pretty much anyone. A lot of people, it doesn't matter who you are, like you travel, you're going to feel a little bit different stress. And when you travel alone, like you're pretty much making all those decisions or dealing with it on your own. Thanks to 23 people who smashed up the likes. Rank says, I wasn't so crazy about pie. The nature was pretty good or pretty cool. It seemed to be packed with, yeah, and massive. Oh, a lot of parlors. Okay. It wasn't my thing. Bangkok was cool. Bangkok's a big city. I mean, we just made a video called the 10 best places to stay in Bangkok. Because a lot of people, when they come to Bangkok, like at least for me, like the first few times I went to Bangkok, it was just to Sukhumvit. Because Sukhumvit's got enough going on, whether it go all the way from like Siam, Soi 4, which is Nana, all the way to Soi 11, which then they built up Soi 22 area, which is where the Hemisphere Mall is. And then you go past that, you're on Tong Lor, and then you go to Ekamai. So that just Sukhumvit right there has got a lot of stuff going on. And then you find out, like, then there's like a Sok, which is like another north to south road. And then you got Tong Lor, which is a north to south road. You got Ekamai, which is a north to south road. Of course, Soi 11 is. But then you're like, oh, but wait, there's more to Bangkok than just Sukhumvit. You're like, oh, there's Siloam. Okay. Or a lot of people who are just backpackers, they just end up at Khao San Road. Okay. Khao San Road. That's where backpackers end up. Because why not? That's the place for the young people to go is Khao San. Or then, going to Siloam. Siloam is a nice place. The waterfront. That's where a lot of people go. I actually don't stay along the waterfront, but they got the Icon Siam Mall, they got Asiatic, then they got the water taxis that'll take you up and down the Chao Phraya River. But another thing is like the first few times I came to Bangkok, I thought, well, okay, if you wanted to just drive somewhere without having to hit the airport, you would go to Pattaya. Well, come to find out, you go in the opposite direction. They got Hua Hin. So I was like looking on the map. I was like, how to get to Hua Hin? Went to Hua Hin. Now I prefer Hua Hin. And the thing I like about Hua Hin is Hua Hin's the next stop from Bangkok on the way down the Malaysian Peninsula, which takes me down to Champon. If I want to go to Champon, I can go to Koh Tao, I can go to Koh Phangan, and I can go to Koh Samui on the ferry. Of course, I would stop in Koh Tao because if you see Koh Tao up front on the boat, you're like, "What is this place?" You know those places where you're like, "Oh my god, what is this place?" It's like Koh Tao like just pops up out of the ocean, and on a blue sky day, you're just like, "Whoa, Koh Tao! Like, let me off the boat here in Koh Tao, buddy." But you know, if you end up on the wrong side of YouTube, you might be scared to go to Koh Tao. But I went to Koh Tao; it was cool. Reason is because it's got a unique nickname. I'm not going to get into it. Um, but it's because it's a bit dangerous, they say. But there's a lot of backpackers that go there, and it's a party place. But from Koh Tao and about an hour away is Koh Phangan. And the thing about island hopping in that area of the Gulf of Thailand is the seas. The seas can get quite high. I mean, you're almost like, oh man, is this going to be the moment when the ferry doesn't make it? It'd be like raining, and the waves are like coming up over the the side of the windows, and you're like, "Whoa, man, are we like sinking, or are the waves just really high?" So, I mean, I've seen that happen with the waves out in Gulf of Thailand. It's a little bit ominous. In Thailand, I've been out there on some rainstorms struck, and I'll look back at the whether whoever the captain is, and I'll be like, if he's nervous, I'm gonna be nervous. So I always like look at the captain. I'm like, how's he looking? And you know how the boat drivers are. They're always confident, always confident. But if they ever look like nervous, that would be like the telltale sign. Like, hey, give me the life jacket. I need a life jacket like right now, just in case. Whenever it's raining or any high swells, you should always have a life jacket on, anyways. I mean, anytime you're on a boat, you should have a life jacket on, whether it's a long tail or whatever. Someone said, question, have you ever been to New Zealand? If so, what's your take on it? Yeah, I've been to New Zealand twice. Um, it's great. It's expensive. I'm not a big fan of expensive places. I mean, there's some places there, like the UK. Like, I'm sorry, the UK is probably the most expensive place in the world. Like, they try to say that Singapore is the most expensive place in the world, but in Singapore, I can ride a train for like $5 a day and take me anywhere around Singapore. I can eat food at a hawker for like $3 to $5. Okay. Yeah, my hotel might cost me anywhere between 75 to $200 a night. But yeah, okay. I mean, you could get cheaper. You can get like a capsule hotel. So no, Singapore is not that expensive. In London, you won't find a meal for cheaper than $15 to $20 at all. And we're talking like a basic meal. Transportation is expensive. A Grab or one of those taxis is expensive. Scotland was probably even more expensive than London. In particular, in Edinburgh, I was like blown away how expensive Edinburgh was. But New Zealand's one of those places, and the reason I bring up transportation and food is because like those are additional costs on top of the accommodation. So that's the downside of New Zealand. But as far as if you got the money, I mean, New Zealand's great. Like, I went all the way down to Queenstown. I even went all the way south to Dunedin. Dunedin is an interesting place down there. It's you're on the southern hemisphere, so you're quite low. You're almost like, how close is Antarctica from here? Do you guys have a sail that goes down to Antarctica? Can I go to Antarctica from here? It's like when I went to Tasmania and Hobart. I was like, because Hobart's on the southern part of Tasmania. So you're like, do you guys go to Antarctica? Is this like the moment where I can forward progress down to Antarctica? And you like look at a map and you're like, well, Antarctica is actually quite far away from here. So how do you get to Antarctica? Well, probably the closest I've ever been to going to Antarctica was down in South America. When I was down in Chile or Argentina, they have Tierra del Fuego, and then they have Patagonia. In that area, they have this place called Ushuaia. That was probably the closest that I've had ever been to like going to Antarctica. And I was like, dude, why would I want to go to Antarctica? See snow? No. I mean, if I wanted to do that to myself, I'd probably just go to Alaska. So, yeah, Antarctica for a bucket list destination, cool. Like anyone who tells me that uh, Antarctica is on their bucket list, I'm kind of like, why? Why? What are you going to see there? But people want to go because it's like the South Pole, you know? It's like going to Alaska, just going to the Christmas town up in Fairbanks or whatever. Someone said, Yeah, as far as the benefits of I love these questions. These are great. If you guys got questions, keep shooting them at me. Someone said the top 2 or 3 benefits of solo travel. Yeah, beside getting that brain exercise, having the moments of solitude and like being able to think for yourself and think to yourself and like meditate and like, being on your own schedule, those are benefits. I mean, you could make a pros and cons of solo travel. Definitely something, but just getting back to the New Zealand thing, I would say if you go there, Auckland's beautiful. And I went all the way down on a bus down from Auckland down to uh, Wellington. I went to Wellington and then I caught a ferry over the Abel Tasman Strait. Abel Tasman is the guy who they named Tasmania after. And I ended up in this place called Pitcairn, not Pitcoin, Pitcairn. Let me see what that place is called. It's a town, New Zealand. They go through like the fjords because the South Island has the fjords or whatever. I never know how to say it. It's like archipelago. Like everyone's always trying to correct me because I still don't even know what it's called. But I went to this town. Let me see where it's at. In the north part, across from Picton. That's what it's called, Picton. Yeah, I was like hoping to see some like on that ferry ride, I was like, am I going to see like, orcas and killer whales? Because some of the best sightings I've seen are either in like Vancouver Island, British Columbia, or around like Port Angeles in the PNW, or New Zealand, maybe Argentina. I've never been down to the part where they had them down in Tierra del Fuego, but those orcas that come right up next to the shoreline. In some cases, they even beach themselves to grab a seal. But yeah, that was I didn't see any of that down in New Zealand. And from Picton, I actually took a train. So they have a nice train, and I went to Christchurch. In my mind, I had this idea like, oh, I need to go to Christchurch. I have no idea why I wanted to go to Christchurch. I guess because I remember there was like the Christchurch earthquake that happened. But then I was like, that's a really nice name, Christchurch. Then when I got to Christchurch, I was like, okay, what is there to do at Christchurch? Well, go to a casino. There wasn't much to see in Christchurch, but it's a cool place. I mean, yeah, it's good. The Queenstown though is nice. Um, did I go to Lake Takapo? I went to Lake Taupo, but I didn't go to Lake Takapo, I don't think. They got a few different places down there. I went to a couple different lakes. I should make a full New Zealand travel guide. But yeah, that would be cool. Someone said, I have Japan booked for February. I'm thinking my next big trip will be New Zealand, but those beaches in the Philippines would be nice. Are there any beaches in the Americas that compare? Yeah, in the Caribbean. In the Caribbean, I've seen some just phenomenal islands. Like, I don't know if you've seen our St. Kitts and Nevis video, but that's an interesting place. It's not really known for its beaches, but St. Kitts is one island and then Nevis is another island. Nevis is like a volcano, and I think St. Kitts is too, but they have like this really amazing like British fort. It's made of stone on St. Kitts. But like I said, I mean, there's not the southern part of St. Kitts is really nice. They have this place called Reggae Beach. Uh, People on St. Kitts are really nice. I don't know why I just recommended St. Kitts, but I mean, it's like I island hopped all over the Caribbean. Number one is you can pick up a lot of countries on your like list. On that particular trip, I went Bahamas, British Virgin Island. Well, I went Bahamas, Cayman Islands, British Virgin Islands, St. Lucia, Barbados, Martinique, St. Kitts and Nevis, Anguilla, St. Martin, and USVI, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. That was all on one trip. Not in that order, though. And yeah. And it's weird because you would think, well, okay, I'm in St. Martin. Can I fly to St. Kitts? Yeah, you can. But okay, from St. Kitts, can I fly straight to, I don't know, looks like Antigua and Barbuda is like real close. How do I get there? Can I take a ferry or, what's the easy way to get there? You can't take a ferry. They didn't have a ferry there. So you had to like fly there and there's no direct flight. So I was like, okay, from St. Kitts, I'll fly to, I think I flew to Barbados. And then from Barbados, I went to St. Lucia, and then I took a ferry from St. Lucia to Martinique because remember, I try to avoid airports anytime I can, just because I prefer that. But you mentioned the Philippines, man, it's a rough ride, man. It's a rough. What I'm saying is like, it's not like Thailand. I mean, they got like these slow moving ferries, and usually they're pumping out diesel fuel. And I don't know. Usually, I need like a Red Horse or a San Miguel Light before I get on that. Like for real. But Japan will be cool. I mean, you could go all around Japan on that Shinkansen. The train stations in Osaka and Tokyo are just so crowded with people. Even Kyoto. But Kyoto is probably the best place in Japan, if I'm to be completely honest with you. If you do go around Philippines, uh, I mean, my favorites. I'm actually going to make a video. The best places to go in Philippines. That's my next video. That's going to be something you should watch. So look out for that probably this weekend. It'll come out. But my top 5 for Philippines, I mean, there's a couple hidden gems that are on my radar. Like Philippines has 7,500 islands and like beautiful islands. Like, oh my gosh, I'd probably been to like 30 to 40 of those islands. But so not all of them are considered like a new island, right? So like if you go to like Panglao, it's a new island, but it's part of Bohol. So when someone says they want to go to the Bohol, they're talking about Panglao Island, which is separate from Bohol, the actual big island of Bohol. Or like if you go to Camotes, that's I think part of Leyte, or like Malapascua or Bantayan, that's part of Cebu, or Sumalan Island is part of Cebu. So I mean, it's like so you'll be in like Malapascua, but people will say, "Oh, you went to Cebu." But yeah, I mean, there's so many places. Like the Philippines it's like Indonesia. Indonesia has 10,000 islands. Those ones are harder to get to. Like right now, I feel way more confident getting around Philippines and exploring here, just because there's so many islands. The first time I was ever introduced to the Philippines like this was I was in the Navy. We were coming back from where were we coming back from? I think we were coming back from like Afghanistan on a ship. And because we go from San Diego to Afghanistan and then Afghanistan back to San Diego. So it's called transit. And the transit took like 20 to 24 days, something like that. Well, I remember it was a beautiful day on the flight deck and we were transiting through the archipelago of the Philippines. And we were going through there and I wanted to be on the flight deck. I didn't care. I just wanted to be on the flight deck because the captain's like, yeah, we're transiting through the archipelago of Philippines. But I didn't know the geography of the Philippines. I didn't know where we were at. I just knew we were in like the southern part of the Philippines. And I remember looking out there and I was seeing like these islands off in the distance and just like you could see the white sand and you could just like some of the islands had like smoke billowing off them. And I'm like, dude, what is this place? This is like where Robinson Crusoe was, man. I was like, man, I'd love to come back out here to the Philippines and explore. I was like maybe like 25 at the time. And sure enough, I did. So, but I still haven't gone to all those islands. I still would love to know the route that we took when we went through when we were transiting through all those islands. But yeah, there was just so many islands out there because there's a lot of different little islands along the way. Some of them are inhabited, some of them aren't. I think it was the area north. I want to say it was the area north of Mindanao, but it could have been the area south of Mindanao in the Sulu, which is the area that's a no-go zone. So I'm still trying to find out where I was. Shane says, hey, mate, I love watching your videos from Australia. We plan many trips abroad from your videos. Nice, Shane. So where in Australia are you? That's actually on my radar in the short term, Australia. I haven't been down there for a while. I've only been to Australia twice. There's a couple. I've been to most of the big ones. I haven't been to Cairns, however you want to say it, Darwin, Exmouth, which is the Kimberley area of that part of the country. I mean, I'd love to do like a full circumnavigation of Australia. That's like one of my ultimate like road trips. There's a few places that are like the ultimate road trips, but Australia's got it. Even if it was the Great Ocean Road, I don't really know if I could do the whole country of Australia. That's like huge country. I mean, that'd be great though. I mean, there's a lot to see out there and it's a lot of no man's land. I know that. It's very sparsely populated. Someone says South Australia near the Barossa Valley. Wow. Yeah, Perth. I love Perth. The first time I went down to Perth, I was like, "This is a cool place." They're like, "Oh, it's the most isolated big city in the world. It's closer to Jakarta than it is to Sydney." And I was like, "Wait, let me check that on the map. Is that true?" I was like, "Yeah, I think that checks out. It looks like it's closer to Jakarta than it is to Sydney." And then I flew across there on my favorite airline at the time, which was Virgin Australia. I don't even know what happened to Virgin Airlines. Like that was like the best airline back in like when I first started traveling. The first time I ever flew on Virgin Australia, I was like, dude, I'm gonna fly. I was like, Richard Branson owns this. I was like, this Richard Branson guy knows how to do air travel. Like he was, I think, a pioneer of air travel. But they canceled Virgin America and they replaced it with Alaska Airlines and instantly went downhill. Like Alaska Airlines is a nice airline by American standards, but crappy compared to Virgin or what it was in like the mid like around 2015, 2016. Virgin was like, but I guess I don't know what happened. I mean, maybe they weren't profitable. I don't know what it was, but that was like the best airline. And I flew that from Perth to Melbourne. I arrived at Melbourne on a red eye at like 6 in the morning. And I was like, it was cold, so cold. The hotel wouldn't let me check in because I was way too early. And I just remember being like, because you know what? My grandfather, he's from Melbourne. He's a Richmond Tiger fan, if you know what I mean. And so I have family in Melbourne. And I was just like, not that was a terrible first impression of Melbourne. But it was crazy because my grandfather said he used to tell me stories about how when he was a kid, he used to there wasn't enough rooms in the house, so he had to sleep on the balcony. And he used to tell me how cold it was. So I guess that was like a family initiation. I had to know, like, wow, Melbourne gets real cold. It's like a weird type of cold too. It's not like really cold on the Celsius. It's just cold in just like a wicked windy cold. At least for me, it was. Also wasn't dressed for it, but Perth was great. Melbourne first impression wasn't that good. As I got a place, started meeting with our family. I started to like Melbourne a little bit more. Second time I went to Melbourne, I liked it even more. Melbourne's, I think, considered one of the best cities in the world. I think livability, or at least it was a few years ago. And then I went up to Sydney, and then I went up to Gold Coast, Brisbane, blah, blah, blah. Also did Adelaide, Tasmania. Australia's a lot of places in Australia, man. I would say my favorite probably in Australia, Perth. And I want to go south to Margaret's River, go down to like what's that place? Esperance. I've seen the water down there, just looks great. And I want to swim in Perth, but I know they got some big sharks out there, man. That's the thing with Australia. It doesn't even matter if you're in like waist deep water. Man, you'll see like a story like Aussie, Australian man, first fatality of the year, waist deep water off the coast of Perth. And you're like, what got him? Like, what was the shark? They're like, witnesses say they saw a 4 or 5 meter great white or a dorsal fin, which appeared to be like a great white. And I'm like, man, great whites will come that close to the shore down there. I don't know, man. I mean, obviously, this is a little bit of like a fish story, but I mean, that's pretty much what I heard about Australia. But you're in South Australia near Barossa. Ningaloo Reef in Western Australia, swim with the whale sharks. Yeah, that whole place, Western Australia, just interests me from the top down. I've told people about the Kimberley, but I also told people about Exmouth. I hope I'm saying it right. That place caught my attention more than anything. And I don't know what the other town is. I want to say Broome. Is Broome up there? So where's Exmouth and then Broome? Do you know about those ones? So that, but if you look on the map, like that is total no man's land. I mean, that is the true Wild West at this point. The US Wild West has been settled. I wouldn't say the same about Australia's Wild West. I mean, Australia is so huge, and it's so sparsely populated. It's crazy. It's crazy. Unbelievable. Um, Broome, right up there at the top. Yeah. So yeah, Australia getting one of those camper vans, VW, whatever, going from, I mean, you could say probably I would probably start from Brisbane and just go up Queensland, you know. I mean, you can help me with the route, but like to go up, Cairns all the way up there. I don't know if I'd go past Cairns all the way up to that place, Barnaga. I mean, I think that's even close to like Papua New Guinea, right? Like Australia and Papua New Guinea. I mean, there's a couple islands that you could hop and you might just be in Papua New Guinea by that point. I mean, you can't tell a difference between the islands that are Papua New Guinea and Port Moresby, which is a little bit further away. But from Cairns, I don't know if I'd go up to the tip there, is unless you think it's worth it. It looks like it would be a lot of backtracking to get up there, but that, could be interesting. I just don't know about that peninsula up there on the north, and then go all the way across, which looks like darn near no man's land from Cairns all the way to what, Burketown. Um, they have the Wellesley Island over there, and then really just no man's land, probably lots of driving until I get to what, where's Darwin? Oh, all the way to Darwin. I don't really see anything out there. Maybe the Kakadu National Park. Um, yeah, Darwin. I even thought about like doing my international arrival into Darwin just to not do a long flight. Um, I always said that like if I was in Asia and like World War III started, where would be my bug out destination? Whether I was in Bali or whatever or Singapore and I needed to bug out of Asia, where would I go? I was like, well, I'll just hop, skip, and jump over to Darwin. I was like, Australia, how far away is Darwin from Bali? I was like, all right, looks close enough. That would be like a nice little bug out. Um, but Australia is probably the bug out destination if you're in this side of the world. I don't know. What do you think of that? The drive from Brisbane to Darwin is nothing special. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the problem. That whole route right there looks like, I mean, from Port Douglas over from Darwin down to Broome or to yeah, to Broome. What about the drive from Darwin to Broome? Yeah, it's really hard to say. Brisbane to Darwin is 2,100 miles. Ouch. That's quite intense. Oh my gosh, I've been going for an hour and 21 minutes. Okay. Well, either way, I'm gonna see about making that trip one day. That's on my list. Oh, that's good to know, Shane. So Western Australia, that's an interesting spot, or uh, we'll see. So anyway, thanks to everyone who smashed up the likes, and thank you, Shane, for all the information. I'm gonna get going. I've been going for an hour and 22 minutes. I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you.